Welcome.
Welcome. Hey, this is Len DiCostanzo. How you doing? I'm here with Robert DeMarzo, better known as Bobby D to all his friends and neighbors from Informa. We're going to have a really lively discussion on Informa Tech Channels, Omdia Research and Consulting Practices, Quarterly Market Outlook Survey of Channel Partners. The latest results. That's a lot of words there, Bobby D.
Sounds serious, Len.
I'm telling you, Omdia Research doing a great job polling the channel partners out there, MSPs, TSPs, agents, advisors. And Bobby D, what this survey, like what makes it unique and why should we be discussing it?
Hey, Len, first and foremost, I want to thank you for having me. As many of you guys know that are listening and watching, Len is probably one of the most knowledgeable individuals in the managed services industry. He's worked with us for a long time. When he says Informa, for those of you out there that know Channel Futures, the Channel Partners Conference, the MSP Summit, the MSP 501, that's where I am overseeing all of the great content for our media and events. Len and I have been proud members of the channel, I'll say for over 25 years, Len, but our careers have really spanned and intersected.
I say 4 decades now, Bobby D, and I think you're right there with me. So
it's too long, brother. It's too long. But listen, we've dedicated our careers to the audience that's watching and listening to us, Len, right? To help them. I've done it on the media side and the content side for many, many years in a wide range of capacities. Informa, as you mentioned, major multi-billion-dollar global player in events, specialty markets. You probably have heard of Black Hat, Enterprise Connect, the Channel Partners event. That's Informa. And yeah, Len, you're right. Through our acquisition of Canalys, and that kind of rolls up into our Omdia, which is a tier 1 research company. So if you think Gartner and you think IDC, you got to think Omdia. It's an amazing organization run by a president there called Bill Morelli. Great guy. But yeah, Len, we have rolled up some significant research, and we do consulting on the channel side to help vendors and partners understand maximize revenue opportunities, seize new growth opportunities. And we started on the Channel Futures editorial side a quarterly survey a couple of years ago. It basically filled the void in the market to capture the pulse of the market, right? What are partners, and I say managed services partners, as well as agents, right, that focus on broadband connectivity collaboration solutions, right? So we span the entire channel. What are they seeing, Len, in terms of growth, profitability, outlook? Are they positive? Are they negative? We hit that hard on the Channel Futures website a couple of years ago, and it's certainly one of our more popular stories out there because, look, nobody really understands this market that well, and everybody's always looking for data on what moves the channel partners community. So now you take that, you roll it up into our acquisition of Canalys. Everybody on this call probably knows people like Jay McBain and Robin Odie that are over there. Great organization. And you roll it up with what Omdia is doing. You got some amazing data that we can share with the market along with our live events and our media offerings. So thanks, Len. That's a little backdrop on that. And look, there's a lot to talk about on this data. As you know, Len and I went through it. We were crunching numbers. So we've got a good 30 minutes and we're going to move fast and furious. I'll go back to you, Len.
Yeah, no, great intro and overview there, Bobby D. I mean, as Bobby said, I've been out in the channel as well, working with MSPs. I spent probably 20 years of my career being an MSP before it was called MSP, learned the tricks of the trade and worked with Kaseya a couple of years, building out their global partner community, and then joined Autotask for a rousing 12 years, where I got to work with thousands of MSPs, many one-on-one, how to grow their business. And since then, we merged with Datto, worked at Datto. So I worked with a couple of the biggest channel players out there myself. But mostly I got to work with great MSPs and agents and advisors from around the world. And I'm really pumped to actually be working with Coro. I want to give Coro a shout out for bringing us together. Delia Osborne for doing a great job getting us here. And for those that don't know Coro is probably, in my opinion, Bobby D, one of the most unique vendors out there in the cyberspace, truly bringing a unique solution to market for MSPs and agents, advisors to bring in their base, 14 modular cybersecurity solutions in one platform where all these modules work together and continually protect MSPs and their clients, agents, advisors, and their clients. And these 14 modules can be rolled out one at a time as unique solutions. And over time, MSPs can add more modules and kind of take over really the cybersecurity stack of the MSP. And now introduction of Coro Complete, where all 14 modules can be rolled out at a unique price. So I really love Coro's solution. Real happy they've got me working this live stream, and happy to bring you on board, Bobby D. So
hey, Len, I'm just going to jump in and say, first of all, they're lucky to have you. I think you're going to help Coro dial in what resonates with partners. Secondly, you said something really important. I hope the partners heard the word you used, platform, right? So Canales, Jay McBain talks a lot about, starting to talk a lot about platforms, and it's going to be talking more about it as we go into our full event, which is the MSP Summit, right? We're assembling the thought leaders in the managed services space, right? Hopefully Coro will be there. I know you're going to be there doing your MSP mentor. There's kind of a, for the partners listening to this, if you're making bets on strategic vendors and suppliers, the thinking right now is who's got the best platform and who are the platform players, right? As you said, it's no longer single point solutions. It's got to all be integrated. How do I go to market? And do I want to bet on a platform player? I think this debate is going to rage right into the fall and into 2025, and is probably going to result in winners, losers, and companies getting higher valuations that are being quote unquote platform players, right?
Yeah.
We know who they are. We can mention, the big PSA players out there, but I think that was really wise on your part to say that if Coro's positioning itself as a platform player in cyber, and they deliver on that, Len, too, right? That's a big advantage for them.
Yeah, well, I often talk about Coro in a way that I say, when I was at Autotask and obviously ConnectWise and the two biggest PSA players, I often say Coro's doing the cybersecurity what PSAs did for business management for MSPs, which is bring together multiple point solutions under one unified platform. And I really think it's a game changer. So, and actually, it's great here because we're talking about MSPs and agents. That's actually one of Coro's real big focuses in the channel. Pretty large agent partner community as well as MSP partner community. So why don't we just dig into it, Bobby D? First off,
go, Len. Let's do it.
I think we touched a little bit on the demographics of the survey. Both TSPs, MSPs. Yep. I say TSPs, technology service providers, advisors, agents. I mean, so many, I looked at the MSPs that responded, and actually it's not just MSPs. There's so many business models you guys reached out to, MSSPs, telecom, system integrator, consultants. So, I mean, every acronym out there responded to the survey.
Correct. I think the thing that ties this group together, let's start with the MSPs, right? And I know we throw that around. The listeners could be VARs, they could be IT consultants. Doesn't matter what you guys call yourself. I bet by a show of hands, and I can't see you all, if I said, hey, raise your hand if you got a managed services practice, you'd all raise your hand, right? I think it's a little bit different on the agent side. Those are typically, I would say, sales-focused organizations, Len, that represent Comcast and AT&T and T-Mobile, right? So the big service providers that are out there, a lot of their time is with, we'll say collaboration, communications, connectivity solutions, right? But look, they're all part of the channel, and you said it. Coro appeals to all of those and wants to have those partners in their network representing their platforms to enterprise, mid-market, and small businesses, right? That's where they're going. So when we do the survey, Len, you're right. First of all, it's predominantly North America, but we do get a percentages outside, in EMEA and APAC. That's number one. Number two, it's split between people that say, hey, I'm an MSP, I'm a VAR, right? Say on the IT side, and then I'm an agent. So you kind of get the health of the overall industry. I'll tell you a couple of key points, and then you could dive in. There was coming in Q4, there was a lot of optimism, right? There's certainly about my 2024 forecasted numbers. They were coming off a pretty good year. It's maintained. I just got a glimpse of the Q1 data. Still good, right? But now the reality has set in, right, of what my numbers are going to be. And look, we're doing this broadcast on probably the evening of one of the most anticipated earnings report, which is NVIDIA. It's going to kind of set the stage for the year. So if you're listening to this after the market closes at 4, go and look at what NVIDIA's earnings is going to do, because everybody's going to be talking about that. So I would say that's the scope of the survey. Len, there's nothing like this in the market. If you want to benchmark your managed service provider, your agent organization against who's growing and who's not, if you want to understand if they're adding or dropping vendors, we're going to get all of this. If you want to understand the sectors that they think are promising cybersecurity, so that's the study. And that's what we did at Len, right?
Yeah.
And I can tell you
You
this,
bring it all
I'll
together. It's nice. You're bringing it all together, and it's all
yeah,
the same. And what's interesting
that's
is
it.
we're going to kind of go back and forth because you mentioned what a advisor or agent, typically UCAS or telecom focused, but the reality is, and I'm going to sneak a data point in, that cybersecurity for agents is a top revenue growth
100%.
instigator.
Yep. Sure.
So I think what you're seeing is it might not be recurring revenue like an MSP, but they do look for recurring commission from the
Bingo.
vendors that provide it. So I think it's really important to note. It's like we're not going to talk about it, but the conversion of both the agent model and the MSP model really interesting, either through partnerships or through an advisor building a managed service practice or an MSP getting into telecom and UCAS. The lines are actually blurring even more as we kind of move through the next couple of years.
Len, not only are the lines blurring, but the reason we did the study, is certainly to show that managed service providers and agents in some cases are partnering together, right? Because a managed service provider, very tech-focused organization. We know them. We study their websites. We know who they are. We know what they do, right? The Jason Rinkers that are out there from Stronghold, right? And the Medvids, right? Those organizations are, we know what they do and what they deliver. New charter, et cetera. On the agent side, right, you got companies that are very focused on enterprise accounts and will say connectivity, telecom solutions. A lot of times the MSP will say, hey, I don't do that. How could I partner with those guys? Or that agent might encounter an IT project. So there's some partnering. It used to be called convergence. I'd say there's some partnering going on across those two. Sure. The other side of it, you said the other thing too that connects them is certainly the focus on recurring revenue. Managed service providers are focused on recurring revenue from their managed services, right? They want to increase and grow that, increase their customer base. And on the agent side, the same thing. It's recurring revenue from the installations that they did, and they can go back and renew those contracts on an annual basis. So yeah, I think that connects both sides of the channel. But they're both different types of organizations. MSPs, a little more techie, a little bit more geeky, a little bit more nerdy in what they do. They get in the weeds. Those agents are really sales savvy organizations. I love both sides.
They bring the vendor in to do all the work, or an MSP
Correct.
to do all the work. And what's actually interesting is we're talking about the blend really quick. One agent partner that I've worked with actually coined a term, TBAS, Technology Brokerage as a Service, where they actually charge to be the kind of third-party expert to bring multiple solutions to bear into their client base. So really interesting to kind of see, maybe not the convergence, but how different components of business models are being brought together, and kind of utilized to drive revenue and profit. It's great. So
hey, Len, the other thing that I'd say that unites the group is optimism on both sides. Certainly,
I was just going to say, let's look at the revenue and profit, because really it's very positive on both sides. On the MSP side, and I'm just kind of looking here, 80% of MSPs project their 2024 managed service revenue and profits to increase from 2023. Now, I know, we're in 2024 and these are early 2024 kind of numbers, late 23, but that's pretty optimistic. And on the advisor side, consulting and professional service revenue are compared to 2023, over 80% of TAs are saying they're going to increase profits and revenue as well, with 33% saying they're going to grow 20%. So all promising numbers heading into 2024. Maybe touch on what you think about that and what you're seeing maybe from the latest numbers. Is it shaping up the way they thought?
Yeah. Hey, Len, when we had, when I stood on stage at the Channel Partners conference in March in Las Vegas and the MSP Summit,
Great conference, by the way, Bob.
MSP
Great conference.
Thanks for being there. Thanks for delivering content. We had about 8,000 channel leaders that came, right? Yeah. We stood on stage and said, hey, look, there looks to be like three categories, three buckets of partners out there, right? Your rapid growth, your fast growth guys that are growing in excess of 20%. I think I said there was about 29 or 30% in that bucket. There was another bucket that I'd say was growth oriented, those 11 to 20%. And then there were those that were unchanged. That was going into Q4. There was certainly, some data and presentation we did around that. What I'm seeing in the Q1 numbers, Len, is a little bit of shift, right? I'm seeing that fast, rapid growth partner decrease a bit from about a third, maybe to 18% right? The growth partner category is growing, right? So that'll, as I said, people that are growing their businesses, and you out there that are growing between 11 and 19%, right? That would appeal to you. Where I saw an increase was in those that are saying, hey, my business is relatively unchanged. I'm flat, right? That shows to me that there has been a shift. Could be a little bit of a pause in business. It could be reality in terms of where the Q1 numbers, right? We'll dig into certainly Q2 when we get there. But certainly it shows there's still three kinds of partners, right? There's ones that are hitting it out of the park that are growing very rapidly. They're the ones that are posting, I would say, respectable growth, right? Vendors like Coral want to get after them. You want to work with those guys to accelerate their growth, right? And then there's those that maybe are lifestyle or struggling. Maybe they're shedding a business and, and kind of going back into growth mode, or maybe they just don't want to put the pedal to the metal anymore, right? They're like, hey, I got my customers. I'm just going to kind of maintain this business, maybe look for an exit or turn the business over. But that was an interesting shift, Len, that we saw. And again, I just got the numbers yesterday. I'm sure a lot of the viewers are raising their hands and go, what the heck, Bob, can you interpret that? I don't know what it means. It could mean that I did see a little bit of change in sentiment, right? And channel partners are always kind of an optimistic bunch, right? So channel partners, when you ask them about the channel industry or the tech industry, really upbeat, right? When they say, hey, how do you feel about it? A good percentage of them will say excellent, right? When you compare that to how they feel about the economy, less so. You go from more people kind of feeling iffy about the economy, negative. What that translates into is negativity in their customer base. And that was clearly in the survey. Like, hey, my customers, a lot of them are feeling a little bit, that they want to hedge or they want to pull back spending, or they don't feel as good about it could be interest rates, could be the upcoming election. I don't know. Could be all of those things. But there is that dichotomy between how do I feel about the channel? How do I feel, or what are my customers telling me about the economy and how that relates to spend and how that's tied to spending?
Well, that's
I think that's some interesting findings, Glenn.
I mean, that's also opportunity, right? If your clients are feeling a little stressed and pressured, maybe that's where automation comes in. That's where the MSP or even the advisor can kind of come in with a new solution that might, drive some additional profitability without increase in price, things like that. So, there's always an opportunity when there's trouble. And we saw that obviously with COVID. Maybe that's part of why maybe there's a little bit of a downturn, because people have already done a lot of migration now. They've done a lot of remote, a lot of hybrid workforce already happening. So maybe it's kind of settling down a little bit more, and you're going to see growth, and certainly we've seen it here. Not only MSPs really optimistic, but advisors as well. I mean, looking 85% of advisors are forecasting revenue increases compared to 2023. I think that's astonishing, especially in the current market. So,
certainly around Len, certainly around WAN, certainly around collaborative tools, right, and connectivity. And just look at when I look at that sector of the market, and for the partners that are out there, if you're not partnering with AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Comcast, you're not looking at their programs for MSPs. You should, right? Because those big service providers are looking for partners. They're looking to grow. They're looking to expand. That, we'll say that agent community, as you're saying, Len, can only do so much, right? So I think that's an area for growth. And it's interesting because if you ask both sides about how they're driving their growth, wouldn't surprise you to hear, Len, that some are dropping vendors and some are adding vendors to fuel their growth, right? You're getting pretty good churn.
I think I saw a stat in the study where 60% added vendors and 20% dropped, or did I reverse that? I believe
you're about that's about right. Look, you got to make an investment in your partners. It's not easy to drop them. I would say there's a couple of camps there, Len. There's partners that, and the listeners would know this, you're actively dropping a vendor. Hey, it's not working out. I don't like the terms. I'll get to relationships in a second, Len, right? The relationship isn't working, outright drop them. What about the silent, right? Remember this whole thing about quiet quitting? It's quiet quitting in the channel, right? The equivalent of that is, well, this vendor I'm not representing them, or I've kind of quietly dropped them, sort of from my priority or my customer conversations. The vendor never sees it coming, but all of a sudden they're looking at their quarterly numbers and go, geez, why is Len's MSP down? Well, guess what? They quiet quit you. So and we got to talk about, even though we can talk about this wonderful study and all the data points, what this industry comes down to, Len. Relationship between the vendor and the partner. Relationship between the partner and the customer, right? And in the middle of that is distributors, right?
Yeah.
all of these great TSDs that we talked about on the agent sides, and the Ingram and the TD
Well,
Cynics and the Intellises.
you might be jumping ahead here, Bobby D, because we
Get
talked
excited,
about
Len.
profit and revenue
Yep.
growth and positive outlook, and we've been touching on a couple of different areas of why there's that optimism and maybe why it's leveling off. But looking at the study again, because that's what we're here to chat about, in terms of what's driving this optimistic revenue profit outlook, where do partners look? Well, the ones that responded, AI on the MSP side, number one,
Sure.
27% said AI is what's really driving their results. Managed security, which of course,
Not
MSPs
shocking,
are
right?
either doing it themselves or they're partnering with vendors like Coro who provide SOC on top of their platform offerings. Cloud migration, business continuity, that's the hottest on the MSP side. And apologize, but the numbers are here, so I'm looking. And on the agent side, cybersecurity at 56%, over UCaaS at 52%, and WAN connectivity at 50% were the top areas. So you mentioned in UCaaS and WAN, but you're jumping, Bobby, I think, on the agent side. Like cybersecurity is really big. Most of the TSDs are adding cyber.
The TSDs and the TSDs and the service providers are adding those. WAN connectivity jumped up in Q1, Len, to number 1 position. I will say MDR and XDR certainly propelled on the MSP side, but you're right. But let's make a point about AI, and then I'm sure we'll get questions on this at the end of this. Look, at the end of last year and into this year, we've dealt with, and I mentioned the NVIDIA earnings, right? NVIDIA's making money in AI. They're selling GPUs, at enormous prices, and Jensen Huang is saying it's changing the world. He's right? Is it really changing the channel yet? Because I don't know, Len. There's still a lot of hype around it. There's a lot of MSPs and partners trying to put AI to work in terms of my marketing. Can I automate support? Help desk, all of those things. So I think it's getting utilized internally. They're trying to explain the AI functionality that many vendors are putting into their products. Do we know a single vendor that has not said it's all about AI? It's AI enhanced. I mean, give me a break. So I think we're going from AI hype to AI opportunity this year, where partners will actually be sitting in front of customers saying, okay, how do we put AI to work, right? To help your business, to save you money. And look, maybe it shifts jobs. Maybe it takes away from routine tasks, right? That can be automated. But this is probably, and I would say that the most significant change. I mean, you mentioned being in this business 20, 30, 40 years. For those that have been in this business that long, we've seen a lot of big, seismic shifts. I don't think there's anything that compares to what we're seeing right now and what we're about to see. And every partner out there, what those numbers tell you, Len, is invest in your AI practice, invest in that skill set, sit and talk to partners about what they're delivering, understand what your organization can provide. If a customer says, hey, I need help on a whole wide range of things, what should my AI policies be? Where do I implement AI? Do I pilot it? Right? Let's do some tests. Let's get some proof of concepts. That's what you're starting to see in these early results. And look, let's face it. Is there a partner out there that isn't, you talked about dropping and adding vendors. I'm sure every partner in the market is looking at that checklist saying, who's got AI built in? How's it going to benefit me? Do I understand it? Right? In terms of bringing that solution to market. So I think you talk about bringing those numbers to life, Len. That's what it really means. And we just looked at 501 companies, right, for the MSP 501, because we just closed that out. Then all of them are placing pretty big bets on AI in the coming year.
Yeah, well,
it's a great point.
I think we did a couple of sessions at Channel Partners on AI. I know I had one panel, and then we're doing a little workshop at the MSP Summit in Atlanta in September. So it is big, and we actually are moving more from the conversation and back in, I guess it was March, yes. Right before my
it was March.
And then boom, we're going into September, and we're going to talk about how to monetize. And I think what really is driving AI certainly is like MSPs do, and hopefully agents, advisors doing the same. Use it in your business, learn how to deploy it, learn how it impacts your business. And I think that's the stage we're in, right? They're figuring it out, use it internally, and boom, now they got to go bust out. And obviously you got vendors like Microsoft, you got Coro building AI in their product. So hey, you're going to use it internally, then it's going to be embedded in your products and you won't even know it. But then you got to actually go out and pitch a solution to your clients. Yeah. So I think there's going to be a couple of different areas there. And 62% of MSPs increased their deployment or consultation of AI solutions at the end of last year, comparable to a year prior to that. So
I would hope I would hope it'd be 100%, Len, right? I don't know what those other 38% are doing, but yeah, you're right. It shows you the focus. Hopefully some of the viewers are laughing at that. But Len, look, we're doing this broadcast the day after major Microsoft announcements. We're doing this broadcast on the eve of NVIDIA's earnings on AI, right? All of this, and we're doing this broadcast as major vendors, right? Partners out there, listen, as the major vendors, including Coro, are all building channel programs around AI, right? That my AI channel, my AI partners, incentivizing partners around AI, right? Just like they did around cloud, right? And networking and collaborations and communications
moving the
before
cheese,
that, right?
repositioning the cheese, Bobby.
Well, so Len, something else about the study that you should mention, right? So we not only look at what's hot, and Len did a great job. I should hire him. He does a better job than me of presenting my own data. But we also ask what's not hot. Commodities are not hot, right? So printers and hardware. However, kind of interesting that all of a sudden you're seeing AI-powered PCs. Michael Dell and Jensen Huang on NVIDIA are like two brothers, right? Two peas in a pod. You can't go on social media without seeing them together. What does that tell you about Dell's business? That everything's going to be powered by NVIDIA and AI. Guess what? Maybe we'll see a resurgence in some of those commodity segments that partners have said have cooled off over the last couple of years. So, that's kind of my riff on, AI and some of the data that you're seeing. But Len, you're in your heart, you're a sales guy, right?
No, I'm a consultant. I'm a consultant.
And you're a great sales guy. So the study did say that the biggest challenges, you'd expect agents to say it because they're sales-focused organizations, right? Biggest challenge an agent faces increasing their customer base. Hey, partners, what's your biggest challenge? I'm looking you guys in the eye. It's increasing and expanding your customer base, right? And you do that through what, Len? Better lead generation, better alignment with the customer and understanding the customer needs. That's the challenge. And guess what? You said it before. Hey, if there's a shift in growth buckets and there's uncertainty about AI, this is a great time to get in front of existing and new customers with your story. What is your partner's story?
Probably the most important thing first, Bobby D, is they got to look in their MSP toolkit or their agent toolkit and go, what do I have that I can go and expand? Like, are they even in cybersecurity yet? Can they look at a vendor like Coro? Are they in UCaaS and telecom and look at some of those other vendors? So they got to make sure they have the product set to expand and cross-sell, upsell in their base on top of lead gen for net new, because we know it's way harder to win new clients than it is to go into your existing ones that trust you and go in and bring some new solutions. So I think the challenges of customer base expansion and lead gen, definitely the top ones, 51% customer base expansion was a big challenge. 55% were lead gen. And that's pretty much mirrors on the TA side, some of the challenges, the technology advisor side. So expanding your base, go through it all the time with our partners. It's, land and expand, and you have to expand with solutions in your stack. So
certainly easier said than done, though, Len. I don't want to trivialize that because there's partners listening to this. Yeah, I could land and expand, but I've got to make an investment in my business. But I will say the other thing that we showed in the data that we didn't get to, but I'll just do a top line, Len, is these are profitable organizations, right? When we measure, we don't ask just about revenue growth, we ask you about profit growth, and we expect profits to be. If you look at those two buckets, a little bit less growth on the profitability side, probably because they're investing in themselves and their business, right? But their outlook for profitability remains really, really strong, right? I listened to Warren Buffett at his annual shareholders meeting where he went on for 4 hours. Look, what's it? And he talked about the channel, believe it or not. He talked about TD Synnex. Yeah. This is a real business. This is a profitable business, right? These companies are coming from a place of, the building profitable managed services practices, whether you're, and agencies as well. So let's not ignore that side of the business as well.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, Bobby, I'm surprised. This has gone really quickly. So we touched on revenue, profit projections, the optimistic outlook that both MSPs and agents have. We talked about the areas of focus, cybersecurity, AI, top of the list. Talked about some of the challenges that they're facing. So I think we've shared quite a couple of good nuggets here for the partners. It's 1:30.
Len,
Yes, we
I
got
need to say something before we close. How big do you think the MSP market is? Jay McBain and the guys at Canalys worked up a number that I think puts a fine point on what we just talked about. It's about $548 billion large, well over 350,000 organizations out there that are MSPs. Intellisys puts the agent market at about 200 billion collectively. Last time I checked, that's about $750 billion out of a $4 trillion IT opportunities out there. This is real strong growth on both of those numbers, Len.
Oh, yeah. Well, the channel is the way to go. I think being a trusted advisor, people talk about that term and try to trivialize it. But the reality is most small, medium enterprises, even larger organizations, need experts who do this every day to help them. And I think it really just drives the channel. And I love, talking about Jay, because I worked with Jay for a couple of years at Autotask, and just amazing to see some of what he's been putting out lately. So
yeah.
You guys in Canals, it's a nice marriage.
Well, I'm glad Jay's on my team officially at Informa Board Canals. And Len, I'm glad you're on my team, and I'm glad that the folks that are on this broadcast and webcast are listening to the data and advice we've given them. It's good stuff here.
So let's wrap up, Bobby D. I know we talked about, your Channel Partners Conference, probably the best conference out there in the channel.
Thank you, sir.
We got MSP Summit coming up in September. You got an MSP 501 dinner. Any quick, Bobby D? I know it's tough for us, but quick tidbits on Atlanta and the 501.
Hey, the theme is a new era in managed services. It's September 17th through 19th in Atlanta. We'll be at the Georgia World Congress Center, right? So we are at the convention center. There's a couple of hotels attached to that. 501 big gala dinner this year. We've got a lot of awards, lifetime achievement, special awards for partners of the year. Len's, like he said, he's going to do a workshop on how to monetize AI. I'm thrilled. And Len, I think I had a discount for anybody that's listening, but I think you might have trumped it. I heard your discount is bigger than mine, which I'm shocked about.
You were talking about giving the Bobby D discount. I was like, what about the Lenny D discount? So anybody here that wants to attend the MSP Summit in Atlanta, you could reach out to Bobby D or myself. But yeah, I think we have the same discount now because I negotiated that on behalf of the Coro world.
And Len, if somebody were to go to our website, to the MSP Summit or Channel Futures and click on events, what's your discount code? I think it's your last name, if I'm not mistaken,
I think
right?
It's Len DiCostanzo, in fact. Or just email me at len@msptoolkit.com, and I'll be happy to help you get there. And maybe one last tidbit before we wrap up. Anyone out there that's not aware, Coro just raised $100 million.
Great.
And Bobby D and I were chatting about it. You could hit, I guess you said the Channel Futures website.
Yeah, Len. We'll share that link, but if you go to Channel Futures and you go to my search bar and you just type in Coro, you'll see the story by the one and only Ed Gately, who covers the cybersecurity market like nobody else. That's a big raise, right? That Coro did. That money's going to be put to a lot of good use in terms of product, marketing, channel resources, right? So a lot of partners will be like, yeah, so what? Somebody raised $100 million. Well, there's benefit downstream to the partners from that money that they raised.
Tremendous benefit. And I've seen Coro putting that money to good work right out of the gate. Certainly looking global expansions, real big. Coro's a global organization, R&D, improving the product, and really investing in strategic partnerships and the channel. So with that, Bobby D, I don't want to have Delia yell at us, but I think we touched on everything we needed to.
Hey, Len, Coro raised $100 million. All they sent us was a T-shirt. I don't know. What can I say about it?
Well, I mean, I think you actually they invested a lot of money at Channel Partners Conference, and they won Best Booth, right?
So they certainly did, Len. Congratulations to Coro on that. That was a big accomplishment.
It was a beautiful booth. So, all right, everyone, thank you very much, Bobby D. Appreciate your time, Coro.
No questions, Len. We got no live Q&A. What do we got? Did Delia have any questions?
There was one question in here, but we did touch on it. Somebody asked about your 501 dinner. So,
okay, got that in Atlanta coming up mid-September.
And pretty much that's it. I think we might have just given everybody everything they need, and we'll just have to be satisfied with that.
Thank you, Len. Hey, first of all, thank you, Len. This was a lot of fun. Hope we get a chance to do it again. And thanks to the good people at Coro. Appreciate you guys hosting this webinar and certainly having me. I'm always humbled by that. So thank you both.
Did a great job, Bobby D. Appreciate it. Have a great afternoon. The rest of